Hey guys, this is the 24-hour blueprint. Welcome, we're just getting started. Secrets to lifestyle design for stress-free, higher performance, productivity, and work-life bliss. So, as we move through this, I want to make sure that this is for you, right? Given that we can fall into all kinds of sort of click holes online, we want to make sure that we're talking to the right people. So, if you are someone who's come to a place where finding practical steps or solutions towards higher performance while dramatically reducing stress, worry, and burnout in your day-to-day has become a top priority for you, this is definitely for you. And if you're tired of struggling to get the whole work-life balance thing right, certainly this is for you. Now, if you're someone whose your sleep, your overall health and well-being has been, affected or sometimes even jeopardized by your level of stress on a day-to-day basis, you're definitely watching the right training. And if you run a business, you manage a team, or you're an overworked business owner starting to fatigue and afraid of burnout, that is definitely a sign that you are in the right place, and this is for you as well. If your work-life balance is costing you the satisfaction of fulfillment that you once experienced, right, from other areas of your life, relationships, alone time, physical well-being, you're definitely, watching the right training. And lastly, if you're in a high stress role, period, a leadership role, performance-based position, usually you're maybe in sales or some sort of, top line that drives the bottom line sort of role, and you want to break through in managing your time and attention to increase performance, balance, personal and business productivity without losing your mind, this is definitely the right training for you. So that being said, in a moment, I'm going to walk you through the significance of this image here. And for those of you, of course, who stick around to the end, you'll discover sort of really the power of that image and its significance and relevance to this training. My promise to you, though, is that what you're going to learn is why meditation might not be the best answer to clearing your mind and lowering stress and boosting productivity. I know we've all kind of somehow bought into this idea that meditation is the answer, but it might not. And you'll also learn how to fix the number one mistake you're probably making with your time that's costing you 4 hours and 24 minutes a day of joy and peace of mind. And the other thing you're going to learn is how to create a lifestyle blueprint that helps you live in the zone while you effortlessly secure peace of mind so you can reach higher levels of professional, personal productivity, and performance with ease. Lastly, or at least lastly on this slide, I should say, you'll also learn how to use the one-page assessment sheet that replaces years of fear, stress, and worry with confidence, peace of mind, and security, right? That just by itself is more than enough to really make sure you get the most value out of this training. You'll also learn why the 80-20 productivity rule breaks down and doesn't work for everybody, and how to triple results anyway, right? And most of all, you'll also identify a new stress-free way to manage your work and personal life using a breakthrough 4-step lifestyle design model that will turn tasks in your calendar from being what you have to do into what you can't wait to do, right? So let's kick this off by asking a couple questions. When's the last time you felt free from stress and inspired when you got up in the morning, right? When was the last time you felt like this guy, genuinely energized and thrilled about all the stuff you had to do in a day, right? And how about, when's the last time you had a disruption-proof? At least you felt like you had a disruption-proof daily plan for productivity, right? Or you couldn't wait to do what's been in your calendar, in your daily calendar, or the stuff that you've been putting off. Right? When was really genuinely the last time you felt that you couldn't just, wait to execute and just get up and get it all handled? For those of you who are still here, I wanted to make sure that you know that you, after being through this training, you'll be rewarded. There's a free gift at the end that is absolutely worth your time and attention for this training. So can you relate to this? Find yourself Have you ever been in a situation where you find yourself going over in your mind all the things you have to do tomorrow and still feel like you're going to be unproductive? Be honest, right? Or forget something. Have you had like anxious thoughts replaying over and over your could've, should've, would'ves of the day's challenges and conversations? We've all been there. Raise your hand, right? Where you look back and you think what you could have, should have said, and how this would have been, responded or handled. And now, how about this one? Have you, tried meditating or other mental exercises that help sometimes, but isn't working as powerfully and as fast as you need it to work? How about a few other scenarios that I would imagine you might be able to relate to? Even during your downtime or return from vacation, you're stressing about all the work and problems waiting for you when you get back. Checking emails at the dinner table is normal for you. When you're in the zone and see results, something always disrupts your flow. And what about all the advice up until now about prioritizing and scheduling doesn't seem to fully apply to your specific life situation, circumstances, and demands. And no matter how much time you block out to get things done, you still don't feel like things are coming together. See, look, I just want to be, compassionate and say, don't judge yourself, right? You should never make yourself bad and wrong for operating in those ways that give you something that you could identify with or relate to from the previous slides. And it's not your fault. Okay. A lot of, myself included, I fell into those traps as well. And it's not your fault that those are the ways that you've kind of gone about life to create those scenarios and situations for yourself. But the real problem, though, that we have to really pay attention to is that the old way of thinking, planning, scheduling time and life tasks to lower stress and increase productivity is on its last leg, right? It's an outdated, industrial, impersonal, and decaying productivity model. Plain and simple. And applying what we think we know or understand about time, productivity, and stress management, as well as how to find work-life balance, is the new source of stress in our daily life. I'm going to read that again. Applying what we think we know or understand about time, productivity, and stress management, as well as how to find work-life balance, is the new source of stress in our daily life. So get this. The effort of implementation or applying what you think you know is actually what's causing you the stress. That is the real problem. So you likely have been told, I promise you this, you've likely been told or heard one of the following. Meditation is a great stress management tool for your peace of mind and productivity. Work smarter, not harder. You probably already heard a proper diet, workout, and sleep plan can help you think better, stress less, and do more. You've probably heard write things down and use a to-do list. Get SMART goals, right? Or set SMART goals, and you'll be more productive, reach your goals, and be happy. And stress-free, right? You've been told or heard something like that. And also likely been told something to the effect of use the 80-20 rule. That's the Pareto principle, which says that 80% of your results will come from 20% of your efforts. But here's some facts, right, that should stun you. And I start by looking at the image of the American Time Use Survey, where we take a look at free time. Okay, so this is the time use of an average workday for employed persons, of course, between 25 and 54 with kids. All right, and here's what is available as far as time is concerned. Right, the section that just got highlighted there, other, that's a pocket of time that's sort of like not exclusively or explicitly identified according to the survey. And leisure and sports is also circled here for one very clear, one specific reason. Here's what it is. Those two pockets of time, when you sum them up, end up giving you a total number of hours that most people aren't aware that they have, right? And that is 4 hours and 24 minutes of free time. Okay? So at the very least, leisure and sports, according to the survey, that's time that if you got it and you're using it for leisure or sports, which I hope you're either playing, right? Some indoor league or something like that. And you actually have that time allotted and it's technically free, but you've just earmarked it for leisurely or sports activities, including the other section up here that says other, right? So what is up with that time? What are you doing with it? If you technically should have it according to the survey, what's going on with it? Well, let's look at this. 4 hours, 24 minutes of free time to de-stress is available, yet 30% of Americans, or 1 in 3 employees, maintain chronic stress, right? And what are they stressing about? Well, they say 76% of them say money and work are leading causes of stress in their lives, right? That's what they put down as leading causes of stress. So that being said, another survey reveals that 80% out of 1,000 sample of 1,000 people, 800 people surveyed, stated that after leaving the office, they worked at home for an average of 7 hours a week. All right, you can do the math on that. That's an extra hour a day that they're working when they're home. And 38% routinely of Americans routinely check work emails at the dinner table. So here's what this means: we literally are bringing our stress home, and we're dining with it. Tragic. But still, we spent $347 million on scheduling books and planners between 2015 and 2016. That's not that long ago, right? And I promise you the numbers are not that off as far as what this year, most recent years, have been. Okay? So there's an effort of people still trying to be organized and clear-minded and operate in a way that reduces stress. But here's some facts. In 2016, Americans spent 4 hours a day on their phones, right? And they use 10 apps each day, right? Out of all the apps that they have on their phone, there's 10 that they consistently use each day. And made, and of course, by default, they made publishers $89 billion, that's dollars, billion with a B, from their downloads and in-app purchases and ads, okay? So our level of engagement with mobile devices, you could say, should, depending on what apps we're using, should actually help us, right? But here's what's freaky. 76% of mobile users have a productivity app on their phone versus 90% who have apps for browsing, right? Or communicating that includes social and entertainment and shopping, right? So there's more apps that people have on their phones for doing everything else, but and it's greater than those who have productivity apps in their phones. And that's not to say that if you have the app in your phone, like people have Google Calendar, but they don't always use it. So here's the issue, what does this mean, right? What does this all mean? Well, I'll define insanity for you, and it's doing the same thing over and over and expecting different results, okay? And the issue with this is that, if you haven't been able to break through, I have good news for you. And the good news is that I figured out I wouldn't be doing this webinar if I hadn't figured out a simpler way to solve this problem. Cut through the noise, and I'll walk you down the stress-free path, right? I'll show you the way out. And more good news about this is that there's a smarter, more effective, and more stress-free way of becoming a higher performer, planning your daily productivity, and scheduling, or I should say securing bliss by designing daily life experiences, not just checking off tasks, right? There's a huge difference between checking off tasks, scribbling stuff off of a list, and scheduling experiences that almost eliminate the need for a list. And the key to your success is based on this model of what you're looking at right here, right now. So with this framework that I just mentioned with you, that sort of 4 boxes you saw a moment ago, this 4 triangle framework that takes you from unhappy to happy with a bullseye there, is a framework and that will totally and completely eradicate your propensity toward stress, right? And experiencing it as you're seeking higher levels of performance. So with this framework, you'll wake up every morning, I guarantee you this, knowing exactly what you need to do on a daily, even weekly basis without resistance or having to look at your calendar, to-do list, or a planner if you don't want to. And also with this framework, you'll be excited and inspired by everything you do put in your calendar. So with this, what does this mean? This means, never having to be nervous. You never have to be nervous, anxious, or worried about that you'll forget something or that something's going to blow up in your face that you didn't plan for or can't handle. And then you also have the confidence to, face each day without the stress or fear of thinking about what could go wrong or unexpected surprises. And lastly, the absolute confidence, certainty, and clarity to face the unknown with using a proven blueprint method that's worked for students, business professionals, and those in high-stress leadership roles, just like you are. Okay? So what does this mean? This means no more stressing over never-ending to-do lists or feeling obligated to put things in your calendar that steal your joy, emotional freedom, happiness, and peace of mind. It also means that you don't have to, go through the trial and error of buying planners or trying the next productivity craze to get more done. And the best part is that you don't have to install another productivity app or throw your current planner away or hire an assistant. And then the other thing that's also the best part of this is even if you've tried everything and nothing's given you that wow breakthrough so far, this will work for you. And the only reason I can share this with you is because, I've been through this, the good, the bad, and the ugly of it all. And, I'm Boo Madu. I'm, also the author of a self-actualizing book called Humanity 24 Hours to a Heroic Life. And the creator of the time management approach known as the 24-hour blueprint method, which you'll be learning about in here. And I've also guest lectured on this very subject matter and topic and coached and consulted people at the State University of New York, helping students who are part of the science, technology, engineering, and math field achieve greater levels of academic success. I've also worked with the State University of Illinois at Chicago Business School. And some of this work as well has been presented at the World Conference of Online Learning recently, as far back as just barely a couple years ago, out of a submission process of over 600 submissions. I was selected to be a part of that. So this content that you're getting is tried and true. And here's what I want to share with you. Even though I'm a pioneering specialist in this area, I want you to know that things certainly weren't always this way for me, right? And let me show you what I mean. So I remember when I was just starting out as an engineer, right? Or, sort of finishing up as a student, right? As an engineering student way back in New York. And as I was coming out of school, here's what I noticed, and here's what my experience was. I was getting internships and jobs left and right? So to give you an idea of what I mean, I worked with the Army Corps of Engineers for a summer. Then I worked with the New York as a transportation construction inspector for another season. Then I worked with another organization based out of New York known as DASNY. Then I worked with, when I got to grad school, I worked with ecology and environment. And if you bear with me, this is going to sort of hit, there's something that's going to pop for you, right? So I started out as an anxious, confused, and angry engineer and an urban planner. And this was my route, right? I was getting all these roles, all these positions, work with this engineering firm, work with that engineering firm, work with that nonprofit organization, moving back to New York. Like I was rocking, right? My life was moving in a particular direction, but I was also sort of anxious and confused at some point because of the following. So as I work with all these companies, my father, about a decade or so later, as a matter of fact, it was about a decade or so later, while my life was moving this momentum, he passed away. And the significance of this is that the year that he passed away, that was about 2011, I believe, I was laid off, right? The spring of that same year, I was laid off. And shortly after that, although I started working with another company, I was laid off again. This is when, life started to get really foobar for me, okay? Because what then happened along the way was I got married, had a baby, had another one on the way, and not too long after that was getting a divorce. Now, if you look at all these different places that I'd worked and I thought that I'd learned and was on my way towards a life that I'd always wanted, life didn't work out. And it was tragic for me. And when it was all said and done, I was exhausted by life. There wasn't any, I was just done. There wasn't anything left in the tank. And at some point, believe it or not, I left my family. Before that divorce took place, I had a night where I walked out to a bridge, kissed my 2 daughters, stood on a bridge about a mile or so away from my home after walking about a mile through the snow. And I was ready to jump into a body of water underneath this bridge. Not this one here, of course, to end my life. And what happened was that the water was so shallow, I realized that I couldn't kill myself. And so I ended up walking another mile or so and checking into a hotel to really examine my commitments in life. While I was there, I took no food, no water. I had, disconnected from the outside world. So no phone, no social media, none of that. I just dealt with my demons and my thoughts. And I really asked myself, how did I end up becoming this 30-something-year-old that had all this infinite possibility of what my life could have become? And I just ended up nowhere, feeling stuck in a cycle of just missed opportunities and desperation and hope and trying to get somewhere that I just couldn't get. But when I came out of that hotel, I had some discoveries. I had some insights that really blew me away. And while I was in there, I decided to really have, re-examine what commitments that I that would push me into the next level of my life. And they were based on questions like, how did I get here? What was it that I hated, that I couldn't stand about myself? And of course, why did I not feel like I could go do anything anymore? That I, or that I was just stuck in a cycle of missed opportunities and bad breaks and underachievement. And this discovery that hit me, that you see here, and you saw it a moment ago, was the 4 stages of ideal lifestyle design. And these stages of lifestyle design are the steps that I took that enabled me to go from stressed out, burnt out, to sort of heroic hopeful. And since that time of coming across this discovery, life has just really been remarkable. I wrote my first book shortly, maybe even that same year of coming out of that hotel room for 3 days and 3 nights, and started, publicly presenting and speaking on that book topic. Not too long after that, I was given an opportunity to speak be a commencement speaker for Northwestern College. Produced the audiobook, then produced the system, the 25 Blueprint methodology system, and published different editions of it, sort of by year and by category for students and for professionals, and established the 25 Blueprint Academy not too long after that. And then, of course, continued to publish and create the 25 Blueprint Planner, which you see in the lower right there. So my life has not been the same since discovering this. And, without boring you too much, I did design some adventures as far as using this particular methodology. It's a friend of mine from Puerto Rico. So I started to do some traveling, both nationally and internationally. And, these are just some pictures that I took as I was on my way out, on my way into and out of Puerto Rico for a few days. Shortly after, maybe even within not too long after those days of coming out of the hotel, I went overseas. I was just sort of in a Latin mood, or wanting to learn or expose myself to Spanish. I grew up in Spanish Harlem and took a trip to Panama. And if you don't know Panama, it's actually sandwiched between 2 bodies of water. This is a good friend of mine, Freddie here, who loves fish, as you can tell. And I still worked while I was there, just to test my own methodology and system. And on the way back, got a chance to spend some time with my daughters. And meet this young man on the plane on the flight back as well. But my life just since then has just been an adventure, to just be honest with you. And of course, going to the World Conference, as I mentioned a moment ago, that's been an amazing award to experience. And you and I, at the end of the day, we're similar. Listen, I'm no superhero. I'm just a regular guy who went through hell, suffered, and came back. So what I know is that if I can do this, you can do this too, right? And so I have that confidence in you. And just to give you an idea of how similar you and I are, I know that if you're watching this, you want to make a difference, right? That's important to you. And as you make that difference, you want to, make a living or have an income. And you want that income to come without sacrificing your joy or your freedom and satisfaction. That I know, right? That I know. And so I want you to imagine what life looks like when, you're just laser focused and, have the clarity, higher performance and productivity you want without the stress, which is what I was really aiming for before I got into that hotel. And imagine just being able to boldly be in communication and unapologetically, be in communication and unapologetic about like what's important to you. So much of our energy is just spent explaining and rationalizing and hoping that people will like our reasons, but it's not necessary. And I just want you to lastly imagine, never again feeling you have to justify or explain why your passion, focus, high performance standards, and productivity and stress freedom is a priority for you. So, if you've ever wanted to experience being uninterrupted or have that stress-free energy, I want you to know this, that what you've been taught about time management to reach your goals, and all of us together, whatever we've been taught to reach our goals is no longer helpful. It's actually harmful. I would even say toxic, and is now a source of stress. And the 5 discoveries we'll just jump right in that go along with those 4 stages of ideal lifestyle development I'll share with you. The 5 discoveries that will help you manage your time, life, time or your life, for that matter, for higher performance, productivity, and happiness without the stress. These are the 5 discoveries that I'm going to walk you through, right? Or also known as the 5 secrets. And the first one is the 80-20 rule myth. The second one is that priorities don't alleviate stress. And the third one is calendars and being more productive doesn't bring happiness. And how to fix your broken calendar. And lastly, of course, it takes less than 21 days to develop a habit. And the objective of all these secrets is to move you in the direction of being stress-free. So, jumping right into that, we want to address the fact that the time management rules like the 80-20 rule, for example, are actually a source of stress. And for people, for projects, not people. So what do I mean by this? So let's take a look. If I were to ask you, taking a look at this, how many areas of life are there? You'd start counting. You'd go maybe, all right, sleep is one area, working is another, leisure and sports is another, household activities, eating, caring, and other is like 7. But technically other is just inclusive of other things. So there's not just 7 areas of life. There's other things like, okay, well, when are you going to do your food shopping, your phone calls, or go to school, spiritual activities, travel, volunteer, personal care, and kids' homework, right? Or go over your finances. Well, that's a few other areas. Now, what if I were to ask you, what part of all of this, all right, let's think about this at the mind level. What part of all of this is the 20% that's responsible for 80% of your life? You now have to scratch your head, sit down, think about it. And that's the disaster. That's where the stress comes in. There's no simple way that we are categorizing and organizing our minds around the tasks of the day. And so how that really feels is as follows. So imagine this being your mind. And here you are, you're thinking about what needs to happen. And so the first thing you're like, okay, I got to stop at Whole Foods. I've got to prepare for the next meeting that I've got tomorrow. Oh man, I forgot to meditate this morning. Did I book those flights for the trip we're taking? Honey, if you're talking to your spouse, and then you're thinking about, okay, you got a volunteer opportunity, volunteer maybe at the kids' school, but then you got to, book your hair appointment, have some personal care, You got to work with the kids on their homework. You got to leave, make sure you leave tomorrow at 7. And you got to go over the finances, and you got to make sure that the fill in the blank bill is paid. You got to, am I making or grabbing dinner? Who's picking the kids up? Oh, traffic. What time's that meeting tomorrow? Okay, I got to sleep. I got to call so-and-so back. I got to take out the garbage. I got to pick up the mail, doctor's appointment, spend time with the kids, right? All of a sudden, life just goes crazy. Your mind cannot handle sorting through this for figuring out what 20% of all this is responsible for 80% of your results. You see what I mean by that 80-20 rule? Sure, I get where it's coming from when people try to use it at the personal level. But here is where the real dance is. Here's where the real stressor is. Right? Just let it sink in. And so, how do we solve this problem? Well, we solve it by first getting clear categories of where our thoughts should go. And what you see here are the areas and the tasks where the tasks go. And that yin and yang, that's faith. The multiple icon of people, that's fellowship, that's all things related to your social life. Finances is a given. Feelings is a given with your emotional well-being, and then fitness. And all your activities can go where they belong. Right? You see how that all comes together. That is the 5 kingdom rule. Then the 5 kingdoms are faith, fellowship, finances, feelings, and fitness. And anytime now, if you were to ask, hey, what area of your life is responsible for 80% of your result, you can go to the 5 kingdoms. You don't have to use Pareto's law, right? It's easier to identify using the 5 kingdom approach. And that's what makes you happy. That's what brings that lasting happiness experience and boosts your productivity and increases high performance, right? Because it's a level of clarity. So the 5 kingdoms in action, to see how that 5 kingdom applies to what you just saw in this chart. Fitness is a category of, sleeping is in the category of fitness, right? It has to do with the physical world, physical body. And of course, working is financially related. Leisure and sports, depending on how you play it, it can be physical related and also an emotional well-being thing. Household activities, that's a given. Eating and drinking, that's a given. And caring for others, that's also a given with the icon there. And other could be a combination of your spiritual activities, your physical, you name it, right? So this is what it looks like in action. So ultimately, reducing uncertainty requires cerebral energy. In times of uncertainty, the selfish brain demands extra energy from the body, right? Stress originates from uncertainty, guys. Just plain and simple. That's how this works. And if you cannot reduce uncertainty, you're in trouble. That's a recipe for failure. So you don't have to be on top of everything. You just got to be responsible for creating certainty through clarity and simplicity. That's what this comes down to. So secret number 2 I want to share with you is setting priorities doesn't alleviate stress or uncertainty unless you have your own priority rating system. So stress-free higher performance, productivity, and happiness is really difficult without a clear, measurable standard of what doing well or higher performance looks like for you. Here's what we mean. There's no industrial or standardized way of measuring or self-rating doing well or higher performance, and stress and anxiety, of course, and stress and anxiety are the results. So in other words, there's no way that the average person doesn't have a standardized way of saying, oh, I'm doing well, and here's what that means. Here's what the numbers are. Here's what I mean. The anxiety that we have, I went to the story of these 2 snakes. 2 snakes are slithering around. They kind of have an opportunity. Mom and dad, left them alone at the house, and they decided to go on an adventure. As they're slithering along, little brother snake says, hey, big brother snake, are we poisonous snakes or are we not poisonous snake? Big brother snake is like, I don't know. Mom and dad never told us. She's like, oh, okay. A few moments later, little brother snake says to big brother snake, hey, big brother snake, are we poisonous snakes or not poisonous snakes? Big brother's like, he's a little bit irritated because he's asking him the same question twice, expecting a different answer. Remember that insanity a moment ago? And he says, look, I told you the first time. I don't know. Mom and dad never told us. 3rd time. Slithering a few moments later, little brother snake talks to big brother snake, and he's like, hey, listen, are we poisonous snakes or are we not poisonous snakes? And big brother just almost, by the time he finishes even that sentence, he's like, look, you've either lost your mind or something's got to be wrong with you. I mean, what's the deal? Why does it matter to you if we're poisonous or we're not? He says, oh, well, because I bit my own tongue. Right? You see the anxiety the little snake was experiencing trying to figure out what the case was with him? And this is what the issue is. We're anxious, trying to use old ways of prioritizing ourselves and figuring things out. This is like a Covey example. You know, who's got time to try to map this onto their day-to-day? Nobody. And you wonder why we're stressed. Why 1 in 3 of us are stressing. So using the 5 kingdoms model, you have an easy way to categorize all your tasks. And when you're asked how you're doing, though, you can't just say things like, oh, I'm good, I'm great, I'm awesome. Oh, I'm not so bad, I'm not too bad, oh, I could be better. Oh, same old, same old. Like, you can't answer how you're doing with those types of questions. What you really benefit from, or, you say it could be better, that's another thing that we say, is you got to look at the industrial standards of satisfaction that are out there. Amazon has a 5-star product rating standard to make sure you'll be satisfied with your purchase. The hospitality industry uses a 5-point rating standard for the same reason. Hotwire.com has a smiley frowny standard, right? If you've ever booked through them. Even the bathrooms at the airport, and I can attest to this because I've been there. Atlanta, there's like a 3 emoticon rating system for satisfied, neutral, or unsatisfied with your bathroom experience. So if these industrial agencies understand and have this standard, how can you be stress-free if you don't have something like that? Well, the reason why is you use the weather. Hey, I'm doing well. It's a sunshiny day, or use your moods, or use your feelings to see how the day is going, or your perception, what other people think of you, or social media influencers think of you. We have, and what we use is this simple 5-Bitmoji rating system. And you'll find out in a moment how to use it. But it's the simplest, most inspiring and encouraging way to really just quantify how well you are doing. And I'm not just talking here and now, but I mean as a weekly self-checking mechanism to really be able to look at these and determine where you stand, right? And we've got a system where you can actually get the number underneath so that it matches with the image above. So this is our 5 emoticon personal standard of satisfaction scoring method for you and your lifestyle. And, you got to be able to prioritize with clarity, and here's how it works. So when you go through this process, you get rated, and from that rating, in the initial phases, it's self-rating, right? From that initial rating, here's how it works, or here's how this rating system can work and help you with prioritization. So obviously, the Kingdom of Fitness was what was selected, and it's all in the fitness kingdom. And if you look below, shop for fresh groceries on Sundays and so on and so forth. Like, those are all the physical kingdom activities, okay? And then there's a score that's assessed for each and every one of them, and then that score is written down at the bottom. From there, you then put in the score, note, reference, where it is on the spectrum, and that's how you know how well you're doing. That's blow away. Most people who come across this particular feature usually are enthralled with the whole experience. And so, what's the difference, though, between the weather, your moods, your feelings, perception, what your colleagues or associates think about you, and social media influence? What's the difference? Well, it's based on you and your assessment of the actions taken. Like, that's all that matters. You have your 5 emoticon personal standard, method. You get to call the shots. You don't have to use the items that are on the left to determine how well you're doing, right? And it's quantified. So that story of the new 2 snakes I mentioned, it's like there's no guessing how you're doing. You don't need to be guessing. Know what you're doing enough to make real sound predictions. So I want you to meet John, who's one of one of my good friends and colleagues who I've worked with before, and here's one of the things he said about the 25 Blueprint that blew me away. He says it takes happiness and satisfaction from being a nebulous, cloudy, come-and-go phenomenon and puts it in a format that allows it to be quantifiable, observable, and controllable. Thank you, John. That's amazing, right? And he's also the founder and creative director of Telix, which is a web development company. Amazing guy, right? This is what he had to say. So let's just jump right into secret number 3. Secret number 3. Lasting happiness, productivity, higher performance, satisfaction, and fulfillment is not in calendars, they're in blueprints. Okay, here's what I mean. How happy would you be if you were building your dream home and the first day of construction, the construction crew pulls up to an empty lot and they ask you, hey, tell us what you want. And now you have to answer questions like, well, how many bedrooms or bathrooms, or what do you want for your flooring? Can you imagine having to answer what kind of paint you want that day? Or siding, what kind of siding you want, brick or vinyl siding, or what about landscaping, trees, grass? You're still building your build home and you're getting asked questions about framing and light fixtures and plumbing and automatic sprinklers and do you want a swimming pool in the back or not? This is crazy. And you're still getting more questions about kitchen fixtures, bathroom fixtures and finishes, furniture, window treatments, and roofing material. Here's a reality check. Would you leave your dream home to chance and the memory of a construction worker or crew? Right? So then why would you do that with your life? Why don't you be that meticulous about bringing your life together? Guys, uncertainties, aka no blueprints, will destroy the project before it even starts. Not knowing how you'll handle uncertainties is also destructive. And not knowing if you're capable of handling them will undo you and lead to extreme dissatisfaction. Right? This is why blueprints matter. And you just can't willy-nilly this anymore. So you got to choose. And a lot of us have made our choices. You're either a red pill kind of a character or you're a blue pill. Right? And the blue pill representing just pretend you never got this far and that there's nothing in this for you. Right? But the red pill is for those who choose to really use this model and leverage it to make a huge impact and difference in their lives and in the lives of the people that they care about and love. So let's take a look at what's already out there. There's a 10x planner, there's a high performance planner, there's the full focus planner. This is really what's available out there. And I want to just share with you one of the distinguishing things. When you use those systems, you end up alone, right? Sure, there's like some online support, but most part, you got to figure it out alone. And what I want to share with you is that reducing uncertainty, as I mentioned a moment ago, it does require cerebral energy. In times of uncertainty, the selfish brain demands extra energy from the body. So when you don't have to do it alone, you don't get as much stress, right? You get to do it together. So the 25 Blueprint method works as follows. You come from this place of extreme unsatisfaction, and frustration and anger. But then, the path starts to open up towards extreme satisfaction and stress freedom and happiness and peace and high performance. But how does it do it? Well, we do it by giving you a quiz. That quiz gives us a number. And we review that number, which is where you find yourself in the score review. And then we start to architect your ideal day going into your ideal week. And then we optimize that so that every day or every week has the delight of the architecture of your best day. But the way that it all starts, it starts with your cluttered mind. That's why the quiz becomes so critical. It's to help you declutter. And when you get your score, we then identify what area you're going to work on. And that then leads to us designing that perfect day with you. And you continue to focus on your one area. And now you get an opportunity to put it in your planner and then get it on to your Google Calendar or Outlook calendar. It's as simple and amazing as that. And so that said, better is faster. And what people started to give us feedback on when we started to share this with them was this gentleman here. He said this is the ideal tool for leaders who want to go from 0 to 60, right, in their career. How cool is that? That was Tom. Mr. Jeter here, he says authors, entrepreneurs, and students can radically benefit from using the program's 5 kingdom approach. And so essentially better reduces fear. One of the things that Jenny said here was in the middle here is I was able to overcome the fear of taking massive action and realize it really can be simple. Okay, so these are the results. And jumping ahead also to secret number 4, planners, calendars, and digital time management systems. They can add stress and break down when you don't include lifestyle blueprints. And here's what I mean. If you see a blueprint like this, you should expect to see a house like that, right? And the same thing happens when you have things in your blueprint for life. You should see a life that's like that, filled with smiles and beautiful places and travel and family and meditation. It should work that way. But here's the thing. You got a blueprint before you schedule. A lot of us, we have planners that we're trying to schedule things, but we don't have a blueprint to schedule from. We're just scheduling tasks. We're not scheduling something that's consistent with this bigger design that we are responsible for. And so what happens is if you don't have a blueprint, there's nothing to build from. And when there's nothing to build from, there's nothing to schedule for. And that's as simple as that. Time abuse is the issue. And what we end up doing is we use our physical and digital calendars to force activities into time frames that they don't fit in. Stress comes when our calendars are being used to schedule work that's not being clearly defined. And that's what you get when you don't have a blueprint to schedule from. So few calendars, if any, actually show one of the things that, you'll see in a 25 blueprint. What that one-page document I mentioned at the top of this is, we have, of course, a one-page document that shows you how to schedule a day from 12 a.m. to 11:59. Simple as that sounds, no one has that. Look at the examples of the kind of planners that we have. You'll find it at an Office Depot or Office Max. And you have all the tasks, but less calendar. And that leads to worry and frustration. Versus our calendar, which has from 12 to 12, more tasks, more calendar. But it's really subtle how powerful this is, because once you kind of nail that and you put it into your Google Drive or calendar, life is really, really good. And so with that being said, I think, it's important to just see and avoid time abuse, right? At all costs. So when you see these planners, even they don't have that same arrangement in comparison to the 25 blueprint. You deserve better, guys. Plain and simple. And, the truth is we live in the future. And, so like I mentioned, we live in the future. And when that future is clear and certain, we move fast and fiercely and feel alive, right? I mean, no question about it. Have you ever just had that moment where something just got clear, you were certain it was going to work, boom, and you moved? But when the future is unclear or feels uncertain, stress shows up and we move slowly or do nothing in the present. And I think we can all identify that. So here's what I want you to remember and take note of. People are trying to be clear. They're really doing their best. Based on where we're spending our money, $347 or $347 million spent between 2015 and 2016 on planning tools, right? And 76% of Americans are stressed by work and finances. So, from a time management and sort of coordinating life experience, even though that much money is being spent, there's still, I'd say, a lot of stress, right? In contrast. So, and here's one tricky kind of thing to take note of, though, is that most heart attacks are happening on Mondays. Now, what happens on Mondays? Let's not think too hard about that. It's a given. It's our first day back to work. I don't know how many people have heart attacks on their way to the amusement park or on their way to vacation, right? Unless, it's on Mondays. But, I just think these numbers they give us an indication of just what's going on with us. And of course, children and work are cited as Americans' biggest stressors, right? So now, 76% of Americans being stressed by work. You contrast that there with children and work, right? So between work, children, and and finances, right? That'll get you jacked up. So we're looking for solutions. So what do we do? Well, you got to use tools that respect your time to account for uncertainty. And as you do that, you want to end up, of course, waking up like this, right? Well, you don't want to wake up like this, I should say, if you don't, take responsibility for using the right tools, where you're stressed and avoiding more opportunities that might be stressful, right? That's not pleasant. So nobody wants to be this. And if you don't want that, you really want to go in the direction of simplicity. This young man here, before his career kind of took off, he was one of the beta testers and participants in the 24-hour blueprint. And one of the things he had to say that he got out of it, he's now, of course, a underwear model and just models in general. But in this case, obviously, you can see from the waistband there. And one of the things he said that really got me was, he said it, the blueprint opened his eyes. He said it opened my eyes to the definition of what scheduling my life really actually meant. This concept is so simple that anyone can do it. And so I'm here to share with you, that this is not beyond your scope of, skill set or learning curve, right? Like, you can do this. You could totally embrace this. So let's jump right to the last secret here. And the last secret is, you don't need 21 days to form a new habit. You need one day or a moment. And that said, the 21 days to a habit idea is a myth. I mean, Maxwell Maltz he's the guy that wrote the classic book Psycho-Cybernetics, and it was in that statement was based on an amputation patients. He noticed that it took 21 days for them to get adjusted to not having a limb, right? And then somehow our gurus, the Zig Ziglars and the Tony Robbinses and the Brian Tracys and other people who base their work on cybernetics might have infused that concept into the development of a habit. Now, I can maybe see the parallel, like if we cut off a bad habit, it takes us 21 days to get, used to the new one. Maybe that's where they were coming from, but as many teachings get bastardized, the 21-day to a habit one kind of like emerged, right? So you can't be taken seriously, in my opinion, unless you're willing to take action in 24 hours on your intention, not 21 days. So many people come to me, hey, Bowie, I want to change this. Hey, can I? And I say, all right, well, what are you going to do in the next 24 hours about that? And there's usually crickets that I hear. Because people will love to talk about what they're gonna do, but not do anything. Not if you challenge them to do it in 24 hours. At least take one small action. So ultimately, procrastination is the cancer of high performance, productivity, and lasting happiness. People don't want to take action, and they wonder why things aren't happening. So I'm going to tell you a quick story about the frog's boiling point. And the frog, if you put it in like water and then start boiling, will sit in that water and not move until the water reaches its boiling point, at which is the point where the frog kind of croaks, no pun intended, right? And for a lot of us, this is how we live. We are in some sort of neutral state, and life starts turning up the heat in whatever way it turns it up, and we just kind of sit, and we look forward to the weekend, and we look forward to, and we end up with no clarity and uncertainty. But then by then, it's too late. So if you're not willing to take the initiative to get clarity, then definitely you will have uncertainty, and uncertainty is going to produce the stress that you're trying to avoid, right? And great stress always leads to greater stress, which ultimately comes down to low performance, low productivity, and extreme unsatisfaction. So the question you want to ask yourself is, am I willing to take action or schedule it in 24 hours or less? And here's how it just breaks down. It's you versus stress. Here's your brain. Remember this, right? Am I going to am I commuting to work? Am I sleeping? Am I going to call so-and-so back? Doctor's appointments, book a hotel, grab Starbucks, right? This is not what you want. And if you don't want this, for sure, with the right support in a 24-hour window, right, to kind of get you clear, you can do this. You can move forward. So in any 24-hour window, if you do want to do something, here's here's the steps. You write the thought down. You capture it in a certain and reliable place, right? Sometimes you write stuff on the back of a napkin, which is just not necessarily the best thing to be doing, because unless like you just are that cautious and careful, it just doesn't respect sometimes the level of the significance of what you're working on, right? Now there's, sort of back of napkin business plans that, people kid around about, but in general, you don't want that to be a natural practice. Scheduling to visit the idea or execute it in 24 hours is doable. Evaluating the impact on a kingdom is doable in 24 hours. And then repeating or blueprinting that action based on frequency, how often you need to do it. And that's what you can do to bring an idea or a lifestyle transformation or become stress-free. Bringing that forward. So as I mentioned, this is kind of what it looks like, the whole process. You look at this and you go, wait, okay, I can do this. I can take the mental clutter, take a quiz, get a score. That score will help me to figure out what area of life I want to focus on. And I can then start to architect my perfect day. Yeah, that's what I'm telling you. That's what you can do. So here's what's been said about this whole process. A friend of mine, he says, before this journey with you, my friend, it was like my life was on a treadmill. Chasing after things but never getting any closer to the goal. Now my life is like a moving walkway at the airport. The universe is working with me. I thank you for everything you've shown. So I share these with you again so that it's not just me emphasizing the impact of this work or this model, but that there's others who've benefited. And so for you, you're here because you probably want relief from a stressed lifestyle, certainty about a future that you want, and you now know time management alone is not the answer towards stress-free high performance. And I've shown that stress-free high performance, productivity, and lasting happiness is a blueprint away. And if we've seen that the old way of doing things and going at it all alone simply isn't cutting it, then we know that a really smart way forward is by using the 5 kingdom model, self-rating, and using a blueprint that works, and taking 24-hour daily action. So, this gentleman here, he's an example of impact. He said, using Bowie's impact coaching strategy, I reached a goal I'd never reached in my career. I had 19,000 in sales in 3 days, bringing me to 5,900 in business volume within 2 weeks. So I probably spoke to him. Yeah, it was like within a day, perhaps, or days leading up to, his event where he had to, really hit some high sales marks. And so he was a quick action taker, right? And that the results show. Other people who've taken kind of taken some quick action end up on America's Got Talent, like this young man who I was working with. He had what he had to say as far as seeing the root of his problem, of his ineffectiveness, I should say. And, without getting all into this, the bottom line is, as a performer, applying and leveraging the principles taught, he ended up, of course, really evolving. He was already an extraordinary performer, but that's the difference, right? Performers always look for great coaches to support them on their path. So this was his, this is the fruit of his work, right? And this gentleman here, one of the things probably the best testimonials I've come across, he says, I can honestly say after 20 years in corporate America, I've yet to come across a more effective personal and business coach than Bowie. To put it into context, I left the personal coach I was working with to have the opportunity to work with Bowie. This happened after just a 20-minute conversation with him. I was that impressed. To put it into further context, the coach I left works for a major international organization and has had politicians and CEOs as his clients. Impressive credentials, yes, but nowhere near as effective as Bowie, not even close. And this is Steve, who, he's up to amazing things, right? A high performer, right? Business owner, writer, director, actor, musician, and philanthropist. So you can do this, guys. I believe in you. You can do this, and you can do this. We can do this together. Your stress-free, high-performance future, like I've been emphasizing, is within your grasp. But I just want you to imagine how great it will be, and it would feel when you finally no longer have to always be flexible and squeezing things into your calendar. Give yourself permission to feel how good it is when you're clear and unapologetic about what you're doing when and why you're doing it. And if you'd like me to help you with that, I'd be more than happy to. I'd be delighted to do it. But here's exactly how I can help you. So my team and I have set aside some time for the next 48 hours to speak with you personally about how you can apply these strategies to your life immediately, right? And you can schedule a call with us on a 45-minute call. We'll put together a specific blueprint for your situation to help you finally become stress-free, more productive, higher performing, and extremely happier for life. Okay, it's not just a temporary fix. So if you want to start managing your life without the stress, you can experience so you can experience deeper levels of fulfillment and satisfaction. I'm here. And if you want to have any more freedom, of course, from anxiety, worry, and uncertainty, I'm here for that as well. And if you want to do it all without overhauling your life and killing yourself trying to do it, then this is for you. So here's what's next, right? If you want to know what's next, here's how we'll do this together. First, we'll review your life stress, your lifestyle score, right? So we can kind of start to figure out what we're going to address to address the stress. Then we'll identify how to begin improving one specific kingdom, right? With 3 specific daily actions on that call. Then we'll finally, we'll start building your own 1-page 24-hour blueprint. Okay. And that's the blueprint from which all the other blueprints are going to come. So the best part in this is that this process is free. Okay. Truthfully, normally I charge anywhere from $165 an hour to $400 an hour, right? When I'm working with an individual or a group, maybe even as much as $445 an hour, right? And so, I offer this for free. You may be asking, well, why would I offer this for free? Well, one of this is I just believe in sort of good faith, good business karma principle that, you deserve to be shown value. And I also know that most of the people that I do talk to that really get this, they do want to work with me and they do want to work with us and putting together their blueprint. And so no better way to do that than to just really start off on a great foot and just have a conversation and dialogue about where you're at and make sure that this works. But, and like I mentioned, and why I do this is because it really just makes sense. It honors you, right? It really genuinely puts you in a position of feeling and being empowered to make choices about how you want to architect your life without, being pitched. So just so you're clear, this is not a sales call in disguise, right? There's no pressure. No one's going to hassle you. This is you bringing your life to the call and me or one of my team members really giving you the opportunity to see how the 25 Blueprint can make a difference for you. And if you want to move forward, of course, you're welcome to. We'll be more than glad to give you that opportunity. But before we go any further, you need to know that I can't help everybody and I don't enjoy helping everybody. And what I mean by that is this is not for you if, you're not in a role or a profession where your time and attention is in high demand, right? Or you're a know-it-all and stuck in your ways and super needy and procrastinate. And like after we give you assignments, you're just going to do what you want to do anyway. If you're cynical and resigned about life and uncoachable, this is for certain not going to work for you. And if you don't want to be stress-free as bad as we want it for you, that's not going to work. And if attaining peace of mind and being stress-free isn't a priority for you, absolutely do not just pause here and end the webinar, right? However, this is for you if peace of mind and reducing stress in your life is a priority and you want to be a stress-free high performer and you're in demanding high stress roles or life situations or environments regularly that you want a way out of, and you're an A player with a burning desire for higher performance in your personal and work life, and you're tired of being at the effect of life and feeling not in control, right? If you're tired of that, and you're an action taker ready to implement solutions. So if you meet my criteria, here's what you do next. You go to firstcall.25blueprint.com. And what happens on the call, like I mentioned. So if you want, exercises for clarity you need to discover how to exponentially boost your work life, productivity, performance, and levels of satisfaction and fulfillment and happiness, this is what happens as a result of this call, or what we'll begin to work on. You get some step-by-step guidance on actions that you can take to break through where you're stuck, a blueprint framework to track and see results in less than 24 hours. Then, if that's what you want, then this call, getting on this call is for you. So do this next. Head over to First Call 25Blueprint firstcallblueprint.com, right? So either that button is below this video, or you're watching this on a mobile device. Firstcall.24hourblueprint.com is where you want to go, right? If you can't sort of switch the window, you just can tap this that you're watching if you're on your mobile device and go right to that URL there. So what now? Well, truthfully, I only have so much time to do this on any given week. So there is a literal time shortage. And so it's, of course, without saying, a first come, first served basis that we can do these calls. And this particular webinar and its principles and offer is, of course, not eternal. So if you're going to be taking some actions, you now have a couple choices. And a couple of these choices is that if you've come this far, you can be the smart person, right? That recognizes that if you want to go anywhere fast, sometimes you want to go get or connect with those who can accelerate that, help you get there. Identify, in this case, coaches or coaching program that will help you get there. But if you're someone who's, what I call the struggler, you want to struggle and figure this out for yourself. Look how far you've come, of course. Some of you have come pretty far, but if you have the ambition and intention of going further, you can continue to struggle and figure out, and of course buy planner after planner and try to sort of Frankenstein your way towards stress-free high performance. Or you can, latch on, right, and get some support, and that'll accelerate to where you're going. So you've come this far, you've watched this entire training, and you want a smarter way to achieve your high performance and productivity and happiness goals without the stress. And you already know you're simply not getting the results that you want on your own. So for me, when I think about it, some people are just waiting for their time. I get it. This is all where we're all headed anyway, right? But why not get there faster, right? Instead of waiting and waiting and waiting only for the inevitable, right? So if you really want to really experience the level of peace that I know is available through a process like this, or want to experience a certain level of clarity, have that clear mind experience, or finally get time to just be still, and experience the clarity as you are more productive and find fulfillment and satisfaction in your work and your life. This is a good time to just really honor that for yourself, to honor yourself in that process. So take advantage of this opportunity, of course. Take it, do it now, not later. Don't procrastinate, and book your ideal lifestyle coaching call below and start your stress-free journey quickly. So let's do this together. Just head over to firstcall.24hourblueprint.com and let's do this together. All right, guys, thank you so much, and I'll look forward to talking to you on the call.